Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Witton and here we like to talk about all things sex and relationships, and today we are going to be talking all about pegging. What is pegging? Have you heard of it? Are you a pegger, a peggy? Is it something that you're interested in doing? Now, I personally don't describe myself as kinky. A lot of the sex that I do have would probably be described as vanilla. Not that there is anything wrong with vanilla sex, no vanilla shaming here. And just as a disclaimer, I have zero personal experience with pegging. I am not a pegger yet. We'll see about that. I am only 30. However, I am super interested in pegging, and so I wanted to do a whole video about this kink slash sex act because I've been learning lots about it and wanted to share. So what actually is pegging? Pegging started as a term exclusively referring to the sexual act of a cis woman strapping on a dildo to anally penetrate a cis man. But since then, it's expanded to include folks of all genders using a strap-on to fuck their partners, although it is usually referring to anal penetration rather than vaginal penetration. Not everyone uses the term pegging for these acts though, and we're going to get into a few reasons why later. Pegging can be a powerful act of subverting traditional gendered power dynamics, especially challenging the cis heteronormative idea that the man is the penetrator and the woman is the penetrated. You might have seen pegging mentioned in mainstream media, like the TV show Broad City, which is one of my favorites. There is this iconic scene where the character Abby pegs her longtime crush Jeremy, and it is such a brilliant scene, and it made such an impact that Love Honey actually did a range of Broad City sex toys. And yes, they did send me this Broad City themed strap-on underwear that says "peg like a queen." And yes, this did start vibrating in my bag as I was coming to the studio today. Not all strap-on dildos vibrate though, just FYI. And I'm not on TikTok, but apparently pegging is really big on TikTok. The hashtag pegging with 1G has 4.8 million views. The hashtag pegging with 2Gs is banned on TikTok. Don't we just love it when social media platforms censor sex and sex education related content? Fun. It's also important to note that pegging isn't a kink for everyone. For some folks, it's just another way that they have sex, and there's nothing really kinky about it. So how did we end up with the term pegging to describe this sex act? A history of the term pegging. The term pegging was coined by controversial sex educator Dan Savage in 2001. In his column Savage Love, it was commented that there was no commonly accepted slang for a woman fucking a man in the ass with a strap-on dildo, and so he held a competition to find a word for it. The other competitors were Bob from Bend Over Boyfriend, which is a series of how to fuck your man in the ass videos, Punt, and our eventual winner, Peg. And because I'm all about those sex nerdy numbers, here are some stats. 12,103 people voted in Savage's poll. Bob received 2,721 votes, 22.5%. Punt received 4,166 votes, 34.5%. And Peg received 5,216 votes, 43%. So that's how we ended up with the term pegging, but why is it such a helpful term to have? The taboo of receiving anal sex. We live in a society that still sees sex as taboo, especially sex that deviates from the script of what sex should look like, which includes anal sex. And anal sex is considered especially taboo when it's a man or a person with a penis who is being penetrated. That taboo is part of what makes pegging so hot for some people, but it also stops people from being comfortable exploring different kinds of sex outside of these strict sexual scripts. For straight cis men especially, there's this idea that putting anything up your butt makes you gay, which of course isn't true, as sex acts and behaviours don't define your sexuality. And your sexuality is also not defined by the people that you have sex with, because your sexuality is still valid even if you haven't had sex. And of course, the reversal of the sexual script that places cis straight guys as dominant can bring up shame around being topped by a woman or a person of a marginalised gender. Some super fun built-in misogyny to overcome there. However, there are many sex and kink educators who think that the term pegging plays a vital role in our lexicon by helping cis straight guys feel more comfortable with exploring their sexuality. Cis heteropatriarchal sexual scripts mean that cis straight men can feel limited in exploring their sexuality because they have to fit into a certain mold of what a real man should be like in bed, and pegging helps to flip this script. Great, you might be thinking, we have this really helpful term for this sexual act, but not everyone is a fan of the term pegging. Problems with the term pegging. Critiques of the term pegging often start with Dan Savage himself, with people asking if we can separate the term from its originator, who in the past has made transphobic, ableist and fatphobic comments and has a tendency to victim blame survivors of sexual assault who write into his column. And Savage is still critiqued for his views today. Other critiques claim that we don't need the term pegging at all and we should just call it what it is: anal sex with a strap-on. Do we need specific language for sex acts depending on the gender of the people doing it? It's been said that the term pegging sanitizes the potential queerness of butt sex, and so it actually doesn't challenge cis straight men's masculinity, which reinforces homophobic ideas that being penetrated is degrading, humiliating, weak, or female in some way. Anal sex is for the gays, but pegging is for real men. Pegging does allow people to step out of traditional roles in the cis, hetero, patriarchal sexual scripts of what sex should look like, and that exploration is great. But there are some queer and trans people who feel that the need for the term pegging feeds into these homophobic ideas that being gay is bad. There are also queer and trans people who object to the idea that pegging is a kink or a fetish. It's just another way that they have sex, and the idea that you should try pegging to spice up your sex life is another way that queer people's sexuality is fetishized. Whether you like the term pegging or not, you've probably heard of it. It has very much caught on beyond Dan Savage's original reach and firmly integrated itself into our sexual slang. But whether or not you like the term pegging, there is plenty to like about the sex act itself. Why do people like pegging? As I've already said, pegging can be a way to flip the script of what sex should look like and allow people to step out of their usual sexual roles. It allows people to explore different gender roles, power dynamics, and positions. Women and other people strapping on can find it really empowering to be the one with the penis and the power. It can let them really own their sexuality and be the dominant one when other kinds of sex lend themselves to a more passive role. It also allows them to explore new power dynamics with their partners and satisfy their partner's desire to be penetrated or more submissive. The erotic pleasure that you can get just from bringing your partner pleasure is often undervalued. Pegging can be an act where straight cis men, possibly for the first time, have to expose themselves to the same levels of vulnerability, personal risk, and trust required that the people that they have sex with do. But the person doing the penetrating doesn't always have to be the one in charge. There are plenty of ways to play around with what feels good for you and your partner. Anal sex can also feel physically good for the receiver, especially if the peggee has a prostate. The prostate is a nerve-dense, walnut-sized gland just below the bladder and in front of the rectum. Some people can orgasm just from prostate stimulation without penis stimulation, and it's reported that these are very full-body and intense orgasms. It can also feel physically good to the pegger. The base of the dildo can pleasurably press against the pubic mound and the clitoris. And there are harnesses and dildos that you can buy that have a little pocket for a vibrator. So you can get some clitoral stimulation whilst pegging your partner. And of course, also the sensation of dominating and bringing your partner to pleasure can be super pleasurable for the pegger themselves. So I wanted to hear from some people who have tried pegging and enjoy it, and so I asked on my Instagram stories for people to tell me what they like about pegging. I just loved being able to imagine having a dick, being able to fuck. Very fun. The feeling of power and role reversal, seeing him out in public, knowing I'd done that to him. Hot. Change in power dynamic, a very different feeling to PIV sex. Added bonus, I last much longer too. Power exchange, anal penetration, and the male G-spot. As a non-binary and AFAB person, wearing a strap and pegging is very gender affirming. My partner frickin' loves it, and it's so hot watching him enjoy. Both me and my partner are non-binary, so it weirdly makes both of us feel gendered properly. Getting a sense of what it feels like to be the penetrating partner as a woman in a relationship with a man. I'm a pansexual man, and I loved the confidence it gives female partners. Changes the dynamic. I'm trans, and it gives me a way to actually have sex in a way that's comfortable for me. Switching up gendered roles with penetration in my hetero-presenting queer relationship. It's an enjoyable role reversal. There is also a vulnerability to being penetrated, and it feels amazing. I absolutely love the vulnerability that must be present. It is such a beautiful moment of deep trust. I love letting my partner have her way with me. It also lets me learn vulnerability. Prostate orgasms. Indulging in my partner's wants and watching him enjoy himself so much is honestly a huge turn on. Communication and closeness I feel with my partner. I'm pansexual and very interested in receiving anal pleasure, so I love it. It's very gender affirming as a trans masc person. It's like fucking the patriarchy. I feel beautiful and powerful when I wear a strap. My partner and I are both bisexual, so I think it satisfies some fantasies for us both. The freedom to do what you like and enjoy no matter the genders of you and yours. As someone who has been abused, it helped me to gain a sense of control again. As someone with a vulva, I like the power I feel when penetrating my partner who has a penis. I'm a dom to a subby male, so it's always a way I can physically and sexually dominate him. As a cis male presenting NB bi, I love how socially subversive and personally affirmative it is. It's a fun reversal of normal sex, really helped me and my partner to empathize with each other. It gives a nice alternative when I'm on my period and don't want to be touched but still want sex. Thank you so much for sharing about why you love pegging. And now let's get into some practical tips if you want to try pegging for the first time that I've learned as a sex educator. Pegging tips. When you're doing any anal play, you want to make sure that the toys you're using have a flared base. And you also want to make sure that you're buying body-safe toys. So probably a silicone dildo. If you're exploring anal play for the first time, definitely take your time working up to a bigger dildo. You want to start with a smaller toy and spend some time doing anal training so you can get comfortable with the feeling of something up your arse before you leap straight into pegging. When you're having sex, remember to include lots of warm-up. Start with a butt plug or your fingers and make sure your body is ready before you move on to a dildo. And remember to use lots of lube. Lube. You cannot have too much lube, and also the rectum doesn't self-lubricate in the same way that the vagina does, so lube is extra important. It's important to go slowly and let the person being penetrated set the pace. Because the pegger has no sensation in their strap-on to help guide them, and so aren't receiving any feedback from it on how their partner is doing, which really emphasizes the importance of good communication when pegging. When it comes to positions, the go-to you might think of is the peggy on all fours, doggy style, or bent over the bed, but there are other options to consider too. It can be really intimate to try missionary with the peggy on their back and the pegger in between their legs. And for a position that really lets the peggy take control of the speed and depth of penetration, try having the pegger on their back with the strap-on pointing up, and the peggy can lower themselves onto it, cowgirl style. And as with all anal play, be prepared to get messy. And yes, I am talking about shit. It might appear, and you need to be prepared for that, practically and emotionally. If you're really nervous about getting any poo on toys or fingers, you can use condoms or gloves to add an extra barrier there. You can also put a towel down or a sex blanket, which you can just throw in the wash afterwards so you're not getting any mess on your bed sheets. Pegging can also be an intense and vulnerable experience, and it might bring up a lot of emotions, and so you might want to build in time for some aftercare. Aftercare is a BDSM term to describe the time and attention you give to a partner after an intense sex or kink act. What each person needs from aftercare can be different. You might want to check in, grab some food or water, maybe a cuddle, and reassuring your partner that you care about them. If you want any more tips about pegging, definitely check out the episode of my podcast Doing It that we recently did with Luna Matatas, who is a brilliant sex educator. We go deeper into topics like picking out the right harness and dildo, more about anal training, caring for your booty hole, and active receiving. So that is my introduction to pegging. Did you learn something new? I definitely learned a few new things diving into and researching this topic. And let me know in the comments, what other kinds of sex acts would you like to see me explore in future sex education videos? And if you're really inspired by this video and want to purchase your first strap-on, I have some discounts for you with a whole bunch of sex toy shops. These are affiliate links and you can check them all out in the description and do some sex toy shopping. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!